Hey there, Beggs here with Izzet Polymorph in Modern. We've got a 1/2 lander with a talisman and a bauble. We don't have Colony Garden for the turn 3, but I'm willing to work with this. Take a look at what our opponent has on top of their library. Winota. Spicy. Our opponent's probably thinking, if we draw Winota, we'll probably just win this game, so... Well, if I can draw 2 more lands, we can probably win this game, so... There's one. We also need a creature. Man, that's the one downside to Swan Song. It hits pretty much everything that's non-creature except for artifacts and planeswalkers. There's a Spell Pierce. Could have used that last turn. Where the heck were you? What did you play? A white-red? That makes sense. He's Winota. Go ahead and always yield to that. So he's got the Honor Masters. Those are like 25 bucks. Jeez. Giver of Runes. Does he have a second land yet? No, he doesn't. $20. These are the ones, the Iconic Masters. Those ones are 25. Do we want to show him that yet? Not particularly. Luckily, the one thing we have going for us, our opponent is choked on lands. He drew a Winota. He's only played... Oh, there's a second land. You got a second Pillar Verge. Go ahead and poop a creature into play. Oh, Thalia, man. Every time. Oh, man, every time. Luckily, what's cool is the Polymorph, Transmogrify, and Protea Staff are not affected by Leonin Arbiter because we aren't searching our library. We are just revealing cards from the top until we reveal a creature. And the only creature in the deck is Emrakul, so it gets around Leonin. However, we do not get around Thalia. I wish they'd print a 1-mana counter-target creature spell, but I guess that's a little much to ask for, isn't it? Okay. The other irritating thing was I thought we were going to make the Emrakul this turn, but now he's going to untap, put a 3rd counter on Vial, and then he can Vial in a Flicker Wisp, and at his leisure, he can wait for us to go to activate and Polymorph, and in response he can Flicker Wisp whatever we're targeting. If we don't draw an extra land, we can't cast Polymorph or Transmogrify because of the tax. We could pay the tax on a Protea Staff right now and leave up 1 for a spell that we can't cast because of the tax. This is the correct line. And we have to pay 1 more. So irritating. So next turn we can activate, and if we draw an extra land, have counterspell backup for like a path, and yeah, he had to stop and read that. He was like, what the heck is this? So frustrating. We can't do anything with this 1 land because of the dang... We could play a Bauble for 0 and then pay the 1 for the tax, but we are still at 20. For some reason, he chose not to attack with Giver the first few turns. It's been in place since like turn 2, and now it's turn 4. Does he have a 3rd land yet? He's just right away, so he must not even have a Flicker Wisp, or he doesn't realize that that is a line. Can't play more than one spell each turn. That's fine. We can't even pay the tax on a counter spell anyways. Did not draw land. Well, we'll get to see if our opponent has Path and or Bolt. We only have 4 mana left, so this is the only thing we can do. Waiting for Mr. Burrito to pay costs. Oh, it went through. No way. We are still at 16 life. That's really good for us. We haven't played a spell, but we can't pay the tax on a counter spell. Ironically, a Flicker Wisp. Oh, no, it's gross. He could Violin the Winota now. It would have Summoning Sickness. He would need to do something else to give it haste. Yep, Vials in Winota. There she is. Whenever and it doesn't matter, she doesn't need to attack, it's when the other things attack that it happens. And then he's going to put upwards of 4 extra things in play. That's an Archon. Whenever another non-human you control attacks, that's a non-human. That's a human. That's a core cleric, so technically non-human. It's an alien race from Zendikar. 3 Winota triggers. Paying 2 mana for something. Always yield. I don't know why he tapped 2 lands real quick. There's probably something in play I'm not realizing. Research your library for an equipment and put it on the battlefield. If you do, shuffle whenever it attacks for the first time each turn. Untap it and all samurai you control. Gosh, so many abilities, so many triggers I have to say okay to. So frustrating. Of course. And then when Ember Cleave comes in, you just get to attach it to whatever you want. And he puts it on that. Yield to that too now. Well, that's what we are going to block with Emrakul if it doesn't have Menace. Puts a Winota in play. Sacks the other one. Good choice. This is the one that's attacking. Stop 8, so we take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage, and we are at 16. Good, we are allowed to block that. Jeez. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then he gets to keep this stuff. And it sucks too, because he's got the dang Winota. I don't have any other creatures I can block with. I can't polymorph Emrakul. Thinking about polymorphing the Winota so that he doesn't get the triggers again, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have to block here again. 7. That's just 7 damage right here, even if I like somehow block over here. And I was thinking about polymorphing this to put a different creature in play, just so he doesn't get the Winota triggers again. Because we can attack, and then Protea Staff Emrakul to put it back in play untapped. But, because he has to sack 1, 2, 3... Depends on what he sacrifices. He's going to sack all of this, and then that leaves him with 3 other Annihilator sacrifices. He has to pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. He's at 20, now we are both at 5. This is a non-human, so it would trigger off Winota and put another creature into play, tapped and attacking. So 4 plus anything that's power 1 or greater would be lethal. Sucks we don't have any kind of extra creature just as a chump blocker. Like, that would be enough. If we could chump block the Winota and this, then... Oh, man. And I can't cast these spells targeting that. I could technically... put all of the holds on. Because I can't polymorph and target Emrakul at the same time to be able to Swan Song my own spell and put a blocker in play. So I would need 1, 2, 3, 4, or just 1, 2, 3, and then I would have 2 left. One, 2, 3. Protea Staff the Emrakul. The Thalia is gone, so we don't have to worry about the tax anymore. I've got all these extra holds. Equal to the number of charge counters. He would need exactly another 4 drop. He's got a 1 mana. He could play a 1 mana spell. He left it at 4. I'm guessing nothing in his deck is higher than 4. That's why. Oh, that's a 6, but... I guess he could put things in his deck that are higher than 6. Oh, wow. He didn't see the line. There was nothing... That's so weird. Alright. Pretty sure we were dead that game. Pretty sure. Okay, so... Damping Sphere doesn't help. Dispel doesn't help. Ceremonious Rejection doesn't help. Swan Song honestly doesn't even help. He hasn't conceded the match, so he's actually going to play it out. Just 2 Void Snare in place of 2 Swan Song, because he's just a creature-heavy deck, and the dumb Aether Vials, I can't stop them with a Swan Song. And if I'm only worried about instants... And the Swan Song counts as a non-human that would be able to... If anything, he'll bring an instance to deal with me at instant speed. So the Dispels seem better than a Swan Song, because the Swan Song is basically just a Dispel at that point that gives them a 2/2, so I might as well just play an actual Dispel. I think you won that last one if Winota Trigger finds another attacker. 1, 2, buck on my shield. Like, how good are counter spells? 1, 2, 3, no creature. Mulligan. 1, 2, 3. We just need a talisman and we get like 3 draws before turn 2. Throw back this. Not a vial. See what our opponent thinks about that. Just like game 1, take a look at what's on top of the library. See if it's Winota again. It's probably Vial. Plains. Plain old Plains. The last one, he was hurting on lands for the first few turns. Now we are hoping to get a talisman. With that extra draw, or the turn 2 draw step. That's not a talisman. It's quite the opposite. Stoneforge. Maul of Skyclave. Excellent. Two flying and first strike. Free equip cost when it ETBs. No attacks. Ooh. Just what the doctor ordered. If we can dodge exactly Talia, however you want to pronounce her. 2-drop first strike. Tax for 1 on non-creature spells. If we can avoid exactly Thalia, and yeah, he's going to spend his time putting this Maul in play, and then he'll have 1 mana left. Oh, Batterskull, that's fine. Another target creature you control, so he can't do it to my plant token. Oh, please don't have exactly... He seems like a mono white deck. I don't think he's going to have Bolt. Well, he might. He has Winota, so that's red. And he had that 6-drop Minotaur Goblin, whatever the hell it was. So he technically could have... What's he got? Sunbaked Canyon. Well... Please don't have Path. Please don't have Path. Waiting for Burrito to pay costs. Please don't have Path. Please don't have Path. Yes! I don't think we can lose. He would need second Red Sores, hard cast Batterskull to put on, or hard cast. What's it called? The Embercleave onto Batterskull. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's Winota. That's fine. He's got 3 non-humans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 permanents. Does he even attack? We're gonna find out. We're at 20, thankfully. Is he gonna use Giver to give protection? Colorless or the color of your choice. How many effects are we gonna have to slog through off this double Winota? Shouldn't have given our opponent that heads up tip because there's a Winota tapped and attacking. Sacrifice that one. If we block the Germ token, he goes and gets Embercleave. And then he gives the Germ token protection from colorless. The Batterskull would fall off. Oh, beautiful. I can't believe he did that. That's so good for us. Well, protection from colorless would be the Batterskull will fall off. There you go. And now I am free to block the Winota and just let him have Embercleave on the Germ token. Because he wanted to give colorless from protection from colorless so that it would get around the Emrakul, but yeah. There you go. It's like he didn't even know how to play his own deck. Like, what is this guy doing? Lost connection. Didn't even leave. He lost connection. Oh, man. Well, there you go. Our opponent did not know what they were doing. He was so tunnel vision on his own. I was banking on him doing that after I declared blockers, just so that it would survive, but I guess it makes sense to do it prior to blockers are declared so that it can get around And then, yeah. And then I'm just free to block that, and then next turn he doesn't get all of his Winota triggers, so yeah. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. We won off the back of our opponent's inexperience with their own deck. So, had that in the old bag of tricks, ready to pull out. Yep, here's the Aether Vials he was playing. They range anywhere from $17 to $25. I was talking to Sergio Del Rio in the comment section about Mutavault versus Inkmoth, and how if you were to repurpose Inkmoth, you could build Budget Infect, and now you've got 2 decks using Inkmoth, like this Polymorph and Infect. And if you wanted to repurpose a Mutavault, you would probably need to put them in a deck that uses Aether Vial, some kind of tribal Merfolk or some other creature type tribal deck. And Aether Vials cost around $20 a piece. So you're looking at down the barrel of spending $80 to repurpose the Mutavault in something other than Polymorph. And so for me, that's why I play Inkmoth in the deck. Also, if you have Blinkmoth out, Mutavault is all creature types, including Blinkmoth, so you could give +1/+1 to Mutavault, making it a 3/3. Or you can give +1/+1 to Inkmoth, making it a 2/2. In that exact vacuum scenario where you have this in a Blinkmoth or this in a Blinkmoth, it would take 5 turns to kill them with Infect with a 2/2 Inkmoth. A 3/3 Mutavault would take 7 turns. Now, granted, they might shock themselves for 2 life with a shock land throughout the course of the first few turns of the game, so they're at 18. That would still take 6 turns to kill them with the Mutavault, and Inkmoth would only take 5 to kill them with Infect. So, you would need to introduce a second Blinkmoth Nexus to up the count of the Mutavault to a 4/4, which would be able to kill them in 5 turns, and a 3/3 Inkmoth Nexus would be able to kill them in 4 turns. So even as it scales up, the Inkmoth is still technically a faster man-land kill. If you're ignoring the Polymorph combo entirely and you're going off man-lands and you're going to deal the full 20 or 10 Infect, technically Inkmoth can do it a turn faster. However, in the games where you're not going for a full 20 damage win off of your man-lands or 10 Infect damage win, if you just wanted to activate one of these man-lands as a blocker, like let's say Mutavault, and you had a Blinkmoth to make it a 3/3, now you have a 3/3 blocker, you've put some defense up, that's really good, and you aren't using that to win the game, you're just doing that to prolong the game to be able to then get your Polymorph combo off. And in that sense, I could see that happening as often as every 1 in 10 games, maybe even like 1 in 7, 1 in 5 games, like 10% of the time, 15% of the time, 20% of the time, every couple games, it's like, oh yeah, hell yeah, fire up a Mutavault to block and give it +1/+1 with a Blinkmoth. I got a 3/3 blocker over here. Whereas an Inkmoth, a Blinkmoth, as your only man lands, they're just on chump duty. They chump once and then they're dead. So it's literally like, if I don't fire this up and block with it, I'm going to be dead. And that might buy you another turn to put Emrakul in play, and then it can be on blocking duty until it's unsummon sickened and it can attack and get the Annihilator 6 trigger. But Mutavault can actually profitably block more than once, assumedly. And in that sense, the games where you actually win off of damage or Infect with your man lands, like the full 20 or the full 10, that happens like 1 in every 100 matches. I've been playing this deck for a year, and I've played hundreds of games, and I've managed to not only identify that as the only way to win in that individual game, but pull it off, like maybe twice over the last year. And I've played multiple hundreds of games, so it's like 1 in every 100 matches the man land 20 damage, 10 Infect matters. But just having Mutavault as a blocker, not just a chump block but a profitable block, could happen as often as 10% of your games as opposed to 1% of your games. And 10% is a lot more than 1%, let alone 15, 20% if you want to, be generous and less conservative. So, I mean, in that sense, Mutavault might just straight up be a strict upgrade to Inkmoth Nexus. So I've been debating that and thinking about it. I've got them in my cart over here. I'd go check the bots in the store in the trade section on MTGO. See if I can find Mutavaults for a little bit cheaper. You can check Goat bots. They're kind of my go-to. They typically have some of the best prices on singles. The only problem is you have to buy in-game currency, which goes straight to Wizard's wallet, as opposed to getting them off MTGO traders. $284, they're like the exact same price. The foils of this cost a little bit more, so the M14 is probably cheaper, which makes sense. It's probably opened more. $259, remove, add, Morning Tide, $267, yeah, I was correct, the M14 is cheaper, slightly, $259, how much was he selling him for? $284, exactly, GoBot was cheaper, but I'd rather give cash via PayPal to MTOtraders.com as opposed to buying in-game currency via ticks and using that. Like, if you can avoid giving Wizards your money directly, you should probably do that. So, not even going to get into the wall of text down here about the MTGO card economy crashing. I'm not even going to get into it. I just wanted to talk about Mutavault and Ink Moth X's. So, anyway, thanks for checking it out. That was Winota. Our opponent was inexperienced, and they fell on their own sword. Anyway, thanks for checking it out, and thanks for checking out the deck here on Tapped Out. Make sure to +1 the deck, and I will catch you guys in the next one.